got to go to high school, but we're 10.5 from Kersey, and he had to walk 2 miles across the ferry to catch a school bus. And in the last years, he went to Auburn school out there. And he stayed with my aunt, which was a school teacher in Greeley, and she taught at Auburn, and he went there and boarded with her. Friday night, I'd have to ride a horse from home, it's 8.5 miles, to pick him up, to bring him home.
Jenna, so what did you do after 8th grade? Did you just stay home and work, or?
Yeah, well, just before the war broke out, the guy talked folks into sending me to California to aircraft school.
Oh, wow.
And I went to aircraft school, and I was there when the draft went out, and I got caught in the draft, and I went into the service in November the 18th and got out November the 23rd.
3 years.
Jessica, so where were you stationed? Did you go overseas?
Everywhere. I never got basic training. They sent me to,
Straight out,
huh?
Sent you straight out there, huh?
Just about.
Yeah.
All of them in that draft went in the medical department, and they sent me to William Beaumont General Hospital for nursing training. And I was in there for 6 weeks. Got out of there, and I was come back, and they attached me to an outfit and went overseas. Made 14 trips back and forth across the oceans, the Pacific, 4 in the Pacific and 3 in the Atlantic. Took us during the Atlantic to write 4D Day, and they didn't have as many casualties as they figured, and so we brought a load of German prisoners, patients back to the United States.
Christina, Betty, when World War II broke out, oftentimes my grandparents often remember the exact time and day and where they were when the war was announced. Do you remember where you were at?
I was in high school.
You were in high school? And what were your thoughts and feelings about?
I wanted to go and help somebody. I didn't know who, but no, there's too many at home to take care of. So I went to work my freshman year of high school all the way through 4 years.
Wow.
Jessica, so were you like one of the oldest, like older siblings?
4th down
Okay.
out of 11.
Nice. So in that case, did you like take care of like the younger
Oh,
children?
yes, and stayed home every Monday to help with the wash. You'd hang out 2 miles of wash, it seemed like it. First you'd bring the water in and heat it, and then put it in the washer, and then you had to take it all out of the washer and throw it out again, and wring your clothes out by hand. There was no electric things like we have today. No.
Jessica, so what did you do for like free time and just kind of play?
Well, we played games with each other. There was enough of us where we played, and our friends would come in, and we'd go to the friend's house and play games.
She was a softball pitcher.
Yeah.
For
Yep, I was, and I helped win the South Dakota State Championship of fast pitch. I was the pitcher. I pitched 3 games that one day, and we won the trophy.
Wow.
Wow.
The besides working 60 hours a week
Christina, where did you work?
in a grocery store.
And what were your responsibilities there? Just
Oh.
stocking
Teach all the checkers, do all the payroll,
or?
all
Wow.
that kind of stuff. You get one trained and he wouldn't come back, he was busy, so. Same thing today. The workers today are like that.
Jenna, so was it typical to have big families back then?
Oh, yes.
A lot of people?
Oh,
have-
yes. And midwives, no doctors.
Yeah.
My mom was a midwife. Go and help the women. Big families. There was no birth control. There was no talk of birth control. No talk of abortions. You had your babies. If you worked out in the field, your baby was in the cradle at the end of the field, and you'd go down and come back and nurse your baby, no bottles. And cloth diapers. I don't think we've heard from her.
Well, they keep stealing all my questions.
Oh,
dang it.
Sorry. Next one.
Mariah, how old were you when you started working in the blacksmith shop?
I was probably 12, something like that, 14.
Did you get to swing the big hammers?
Well, I got on the drill press mostly because I was too small.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could weld, do a lot of welding for Dad. Drill holes, put bolts in.
This is at age 12? You were welding? God.
Daddy needed us. We had to put food on the table.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, because Mom was busy with the babies, so the older ones had to be out working, doing whatever was necessary.
I was fascinated when you were talking earlier about when your dad hired you girls out during World War II. Can you tell what happened?
Well, my dad being a blacksmith, all the farmers would come in and cry, you know, I don't have any workers, my sons are all in the service. So Dad said, well, I'll send my girls out. So he sent 4 of us out to work in, at that time, just a friend, bean field, to hoe the beans. And that's when I met my husband Ed out there. Yeah, we had to go out there. And he always said, well, I've been paying ever since. 50 years. Yeah. But we did. We had to go out and help the farmers. Even though we were girls. The men were gone in our small county. They were gone. My brothers were gone. So we worked.
Where were they? They were all in war jobs, is it?
Mhm.
Or in the Army?
One was in the Navy. One was in the Army. I had 3 brothers in.
And you rarely heard from them by
No.
letter, nothing, right?
No.
During that time, there was no email,
Nothing
nothing like.
communication.
Oh.
We didn't know where they were at or what they were doing.
David, so was there radio and TV and stuff like that?
No TVs?
No. This is,
We grew up with a little tiny radio sitting in the front room.
and that was it?
That was it.
What kind of channels did you get?
Well, there was one, I think.
One channel?
We didn't. And Dad always had control of that at news time.
Oh, so I'm sure every brother and sister wanted their own little time for what they wanted to do, and
Yep.
your father had
But
total
that was,
control.
it. Well, he was working all day long.
Oh,
So when
okay.
he came in, he wanted to listen to the news.
Right.
And my mom always went to Denver, to the Goodwill store, and bought a box of shoes, and a box of pants, and a box of whatever. Brought them home. We kids sorted out if a shoe fit us, that's what we got to wear.
So no
There
trips
was
to the
no
store?
money. Oh, we never saw a store. We never went to the store. That's how we grew up until I was in high school. Yeah. And she'd take the flour sacks, she'd buy 50 pounds sacks of flour, and there was cloth at that day, wash them. We'd get our underclothes out of that, our panties, whatever. Dresses sometimes if they had a pretty bottom on them. She'd make that for us.
Was this all because of problems with transportation?
We
That-
didn't have a car
Right, no car at all.
till later years. Then Dad got a 1940 Plymouth. But growing up, I was born in 27.
So,
He was born in 20. He's supposed to be the speaker.
And both of you are.
Okay. Any other?
Mariah, I had heard some people say that during the war and the women had to go work and do all the labor-intensive jobs that the men had left behind, that some of the older, more staunchy people were really upset about that because it wasn't women's work. Did you find that?
My sister was a welder in the Portland shipyards. She's very tiny, and she was married at that time and was living in Portland, Oregon. And wherever they could, my man or couldn't get into the place, she was tiny, she'd have to go in there and do the welding on these big ships. She was a welder. We kids learned that from Dad. Yeah. But they had to get over that thought because there were no men. But that's what she did. She went to work in the shipyards.
Jessica, like through recent times, like technology has advanced like much more rapidly than any other time in history. So what has that been like, just kind of seeing that development, like growing up with basically very little of it, and then today, like it's everywhere.
It's mind-boggling. His kids wanted to buy us a computer, and he said, "I'll put it out in the barn." That's what he thinks of computers. But I think it's marvelous that you young people have all these opportunities. And you do have a lot of opportunities. Yeah. It's great. We're left behind kind of because we don't understand all the mechanisms and things until our kids explain things to us.
David, so if we were to walk into your house, like what would we see? Would it be like we were in the 70s or 60s or
It would be 2005.
2005? So
We
you still
have-
have the basic
we have
amenities and stuff?
3 TVs.
Oh, okay.
We have a CD player.
CD
we
player.
have a video player.
PC player.
I have a washer and dryer,
Wow.
which was great. And I have a dishwasher
Mhm.
and a
Not
modern
me.
stove. He washes them and I put them in the dishwasher. I have a modern stove and refrigerator. And we remodeled the house. See, we lived in this old house. We remodeled it just before we got married. I have a new kitchen, beautiful cupboards, tile floor, carpet in the other rooms,
Wow.
patio. It's old on the outside, it's new on the inside. That's what you'd find. But outside, now he can tell you, he's still got the old barn out there that they built in 1916, 17.
Wow.
That's still standing, and all his buildings out there are still standing. Those old buildings.
Still got to have the memories of.
And all his farm machinery and everything is still out on
Yeah.
the place.
So, do you guys pursue any hobbies, or, what do you do with your free time? Absolutely none?
If we had hobbies, we'd sleep and get up and go to work.
I make Raggedy Anns and Care Bears, and not much though anymore because I can't see like I used to. But we go to Senior Evans dinner once a week, get out and see the people our age. And back and forth to the doctor, that's about it.
So, Do your kids come around a lot then? Do you get to see your grandchildren frequently, or have they all moved away?
Oh,
They're all in the area,
oh, yeah.
and his brothers are all in the area. They've never left the area.
And I got one great-grandson.
I got 4 great-grands.
Okay,
So we see them when they're not working. They come out once a week or so, whenever they can get free, but you have to work today. I understand that.
Jessica, moving backwards, I was just kind of curious as to like what the style of clothing and just dress was like when you were a child and growing up.
We weren't allowed pants. My mother never had a pair of pants on until she was in her 70s. That wasn't allowed. Just, I don't like the styles today, but that's all right. That's just me, you know.
Nice. And what did the men wear?
Just
Yes.
overalls.
Overalls
Anything
and
my mom
shirts.
could get at the Goodwill store or Salvation Army, you know, I cut them up to fit us, and that was it.
David, I had a question about religion. Were your parents very religious?
I don't know.
You never went to church when you were younger?
No.
You did?
Went to church, well, not when I was a kid. My
Too far.
folks went to the church, and people was so uppity that they didn't fit in, and so, and we lived so far away. Never went to church, but we had Sunday school times and in the service, so if I didn't have nothing to do, I went to church on Sunday.
But they lived in Kingsburg. He saw to it that his family got to church. They all built a church in Kingsburg.
Yeah, kids and I, we built a big addition onto the church in Kingsburg. Didn't get along with the pastor, I guess. Went to church here in Greeley, and we paid the mortgage off on the church, and a few days later, we walked out on it. Pastor was driving a Cadillac car later on.
Instead of taking the money and paying the church bill off. he bought a
So?
Cadillac. I was a pastor's wife for 25 years. North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas. Moved back to Colorado. My husband got sick, so we moved back to Colorado. Yep. We go every Sunday we can.
Jenna, what were like holiday, like did you guys both celebrate Christmas growing up or anything like that? I know presents and that kind of stuff wasn't very
You know
available.
the
but-
corn silk on ears of corn?
Yes, ma'am.
We'd tie a string around the top of that, fold it down, put paper around it, draw faces. That was our dolls. If we get one of those for Christmas, we were really good. Too many of us, you know. But we had each other. Mom baked our favorites. You know, we helped in the kitchen. and-
So you still
We had food.
celebrated it?
Yeah, we had food.
Nowadays, we don't do no shopping for the grandkids or any of them. We just give them a check and
Oh.
that's it.
Well, you can't buy for them today. They don't like what you get, and because we don't know what they want. So I just give them a check. I said, go get what you want. And they like that. They can go out and have pizza or anything. You know. Yeah, it was nice. I mean, there was enough of us, you know, where we just, it was a day together. Yeah, and we played board games. Yeah. Quiet sometimes.
Christina, now that you mentioned your grandkids and congratulations on great grandchildren, both of you. Do you feel that our generation has it, so much easier? Like, we don't have to work as physically labor-intensive jobs like you guys did, or what are your feelings about that?
Well, you have it easier physically. I mean, I think you do. You don't have to work in the fields and things. But you have other concerns,
Like what?
Your schooling is a lot higher, You've got to pay rent, whereas we were always home, You got a lot of financial difficulties to overcome. You have harder subjects. You can take your, whatever you want to study, and do it. So.
No job to look forward when you quit.
Yeah.
That's the trouble, is just,
Yeah, you can get a degree, but then there's no job at the end,
it's a sad
It is, it's hard,
situation.
and you have drugs to face, and you have a lot of things that we never faced. And my grandkids are growing right up into that. And if you don't have a strong background, home background to hold you together, you're not gonna make it.
Interesting input.
But you need that. You need the loving family behind you. Not only the money they give to send you off to school, but you need them to love you and call you and talk to you. So,
That was a big point, that all those kinds of issues were taken care of in the community, weren't they, when
Yeah.
you were kids?
yeah.
Everything was settled locally,
Mhm.
right? There was a problem, you dealt with it.
You dealt with it,
Right.
especially if your dad's a sheriff.
Your dad was a sheriff?
Yep,
Yeah?
in
Oh.
Wiggins.
Oh, yeah?
And besides being a blacksmith.
Oh, I see.
But you have things facing you that we never, ever had any need or opportunities or anything facing us like that. Your world is different than ours. But you're still all human beings, and you're gonna be the leaders of our country. You might be president someday. Or maybe one of these gals will be
That's
president,
right.
and you'll be vice president. See, because we need these leaders. We need these leaders. We need you to go to school and get your education.
Do you sometimes feel that, like, leadership, like, my grandparents and my parents feel that the leadership of the past was much stronger and more, I'm a loss for words, but the leadership from, generations ago compared to now, they seem to have feel that it's changed. Do you feel the same?
Well, it has been, it is changing, because look at all that he has to do today. And think about, not just one little project like slavery, it's just the whole world he has to think of today. Spread pretty thin, I think, with all his workers. And the others, they didn't have that. It wasn't the communication then either. I think, I don't know.
I wanted to ask you, in the years leading up to World War II and the first couple of years of World War II, the public sentiment was that we weren't going to lose, is that right?
We weren't gonna lose,
Right.
no, because our men were over there.
Right.
Our country was the tops.
And there wasn't really much discussion about whether we were going to do this or not, right?
No, we just did it. You were drafted, you went and served your country.
Mhm.
You didn't burn the flag or anything else. And
Were there, there was some talk, about rationing and things that happened here, but all these conversations about people who lived in this part of the world, it's an agricultural community, so there was always food.
always food for
Always
us,
food.
some way or another.
Somewhere or another, there was food in this part of the world.
Mhm.
Were there ever blackouts here? Did you ever, there was no reason for that, was there? That you had,
We didn't have electricity.
you were blacked out?
We had mantle lights, and candles.
Yeah.
Mantle lanterns, they had little tiny mantles on them and pump up the gas, and
Right.
we took baths in front of the big stove in the kitchen in a big tub.
For hot water.
And the water was on, hot water, Mom would fill it for the little ones first and on up. You still were in the same bath water. She'd fill it.
And you got this from a pump outside?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, you brought
Hand
it
pumped
in.
water? Yeah.
But we didn't have electricity.
Mm.
But my dad trapped a lot. I don't know about his folks, but my dad trapped a lot and kept us going in the Depression. He brought a young badger in one day. Any of you ever eaten badger? Well, it isn't bad. Yeah, and Mom baked it. Of course, he had the skin up, but, you know, Mom baked it and sliced it, and we had sandwiches.
Oh.
That was our meal. We had food.
Mhm.
Always had bread, because Mom baked.
Oh.
But blackouts, we didn't have
Nothing
electricity.
here. I didn't imagine there was anything, any reason for having any, there was never, except there probably was a time, maybe when you were in California even, when there was concern at the coasts about invasion.
Yeah.
Were you there in that part, in that
Yeah.
time?
They had, well, there's dim outs out along the coast,
Mhm.
and you'd hear an airplane or something, while you could see the searchlights, and those searchlights would no more than go on, and you could see that plane. I mean, they knew exactly where it was at and everything. Yeah.
And can you tell us something about the POW camps here and the relationship there was of for the farm workers that were,
Yeah. Yeah,
utilized?
well, it was right out in between Greeley and here. As a
Well, we
big,
had a camp of them too in Wiggins,
big
Oh, good?
prison
German
camp.
prisoners.
Right.
And Ed and his brother were farming down there at that time, and they put in for workers, for the
Mhm.
prisoners. They'd send out 10 with the sergeant, and the old sergeant would go to sleep, and well, one of the prisoners would just kind of take command, and they'd work the field.
Because on the face of it, these were prisoners of World War II. But
They had
of
no
course,
place to go.
They had no place to go, and they really didn't want to go, did they?
No, they were fed, and we had to furnish lunch. They brought a lunch, let's
They
see,
brought a
a
lunch,
half
yeah.
a sandwich and an apple or
Yeah.
something. But we furnished them lunch.
Yeah.
And one time one of the workers came up and hit the old sergeant,